Hi, today I want to go over my Taco Parser project with you. In this project, I utilize xUnit in order to complete unit testing. I also use Regex and Linq in order to parse data from a CSV file. And then I will use that data in order to provide you with a solution for a real world problem. So we'll go ahead and get started by taking a look at my unit test. So as I said, I use xUnit to complete my unit testing here in this project. And the first test that I have is just going to make sure that I am not returning a null value. So I'm going to create an instance of my Taco Parser class, which is the class that is used to obtain the data from the CSV files. So this right here, this string would represent what a typical line for my CSV file would look like, right? So here is my CSV file with a list of latitude, longitude, and location. So here we're going to pass that into my parse method on my Taco Parser class. And if I receive a null value, then I'm going to fail this test. So the goal for this test is to make sure that I am not returning a null value. The next test that I have is going to make sure that the longitude that is stored in the CSV file is the same longitude that is going to be stored in the instance of a TacoBell location that is returned by this parse method. So this parse method is returning an iTrackable object, which my TacoBell is implementing the iTrackable interface there. So we are going to return a TacoBell location, excuse me, and we are going to look at the longitude on that location and make sure that it matches with that CSV file. All right, and then the last test that I created for my project is doing the same thing here, but we're going to make sure that the latitude is correct. All right, so we're taking a look and making sure that the latitude that we store inside of our TacoBell location matches the same as the CSV file. All right, and so now that we've taken a look at the unit tests that were created for this project, we'll go ahead and take a look at my TacoBell class. And again, this is to represent a TacoBell location. So it is implementing the iTrackable interface here. And the iTrackable will have a string to represent the name of the location, and then a point, which is actually going to be a struct, and that struct is going to have a longitude and latitude. All right, so our TacoBell has that name and location, and then we also have a constructor here, which will take in a double that represents the latitude, followed by a double for the longitude, and then a string for the name. So we will take in these values, and then we will use them to create a new point for our location, which is going to have that latitude and longitude, and then the name. All right, so now that we've taken a look at the unit tests, to make sure that we're parsing our data from the CSV file, and we've also taken a look at the TacoBell class that we will be storing that data in, we can go ahead and take a look at the Taco Parser, which is going to handle actually pulling the data from the CSV file and saving it in a TacoBell location. So here we have my CSV data variable, and this is going to be a string array that I obtain by using regex. So I'm going to capture the latitude here, followed by the longitude, and then the location name. All right, so I am using this in order to obtain the data here. So my first value will be the latitude, and then the longitude, and then the name. And so This section in the first parentheses will be the first capture, and then the second capture, and then the third. All right, so I'm using this pattern, and I'm going to match it to the line that is passed in by my parse method. So a single line from the CSV file would be passed into this method, and it is going to match it with this regex pattern. And then I'm going to look at the values obtained from the groups. And these values are going to contain the entire string as well as each of my captures. So that's going to be 4 values, and I don't need the entire string anymore. The only thing I need is what I captured. So I'm going to go ahead and use Linq to skip that first value, which again is going to be the entire string. And then I'm going to select each value that I have here, and I'm going to turn it into a string. After I've turned all of them into a string using a select, I will go ahead and convert the result into an array, and that is how my CSV data is being returned as a string array, which is going to hold the latitude, longitude, and name for me here in that order. So we'll go ahead and return a new TacoBell location using my constructor that we discussed. And we're going to pass in a latitude using the double dot parse here to convert the latitude that I have into from a string to a double. And then we'll do the same thing again for the longitude. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and take that name that we obtained, and we will store it on the TacoBell location as well. All right, so that is how we are taking the data from the CSV file, right? So we're taking a single line like this, and we're using some regex in order to obtain the information that we need, and then using that variable in order to return a new TacoBell location. So the last thing that I want to go over today is how I would use my project to assist in a real-world situation. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the program class here. And essentially what the goal is for this is, let's imagine that you just purchased Taco Bell, right? And your new goal as the new owner of Taco Bell is to have all locations within 20 miles of each other. So you don't want to have any locations that are more than 20 miles apart. So what my project is going to do for you is you will pass in a CSV file containing the locations that you currently have, and then my project will allow you to obtain the 2 locations that are furthest apart, and it will also tell you the distance between the 2. You can then use that information in order to find out where you want to start construction on your next Taco Bell location. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my CSV path here, which this is just letting me know where to grab my CSV files from. And I'm going to go ahead and get a string array of all of the lines that are in that CSV file. So I'm taking this file and I'm creating a string array out of it, with each line being its own string. All right, and so we are reading that file here, and then we're going to go ahead and create a parser, this is just going to be a new instance of my Taco Parser class. And then I'm going to create an array of, I'm going to create an array of, I didn't think it was an array. I'm going to create a list here of my locations. And my locations is going to be an iTrackable that is received from my parser. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of my lines, all of these strings that were received from this file. And each one of those lines I'm going to pass in to my parser, my taco parser.parse method. And I'm going to take that result and I'm going to convert it to a list. So this allows me to have a list of my TacoBell Locations by going through and parsing each line that was received from my CSV file. And so now we'll go ahead and take a look at how I find out the furthest location. So the way that I do this is I start by declaring a Taco1 and Taco2, and I'm actually going to initialize these as null. And I'm also going to go ahead and initialize my distance with a value of 0. So I have two null locations and a distance of 0. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at all of my locations that I received with my parser. So I'm going to look at all of those locations, and for each one we'll call it location A. We're going to say we have a coordinate A, which is going to use the location's latitude and longitude in order to create a new geo-coordinate point. And so I'm going to use this geo-coordinate point in order to obtain the distance between this location and whatever is the farthest location from it. So we'll go ahead and store that value, coordinate A, and then we're going to look at all the locations again. So we're doing the same thing again here, but we're going to look at the next location as location B, and we're going to do this so that we can compare each location against all of the other locations that are stored. So we're going to say location B, and we're going to create another geo-coordinate down here, and we're going to call it coordinate B using location B's latitude and longitude. So now we have the first location's geo-coordinate and the second location's geo-coordinate. We can go ahead and find out what the distance is between coordinate A and coordinate B. So we'll do that by using the getDistance2. That is a method available with the geo-coordinate class. And so we're using that to obtain the distance between the two. And we're going to compare that distance against the distance that we have initialized here. So originally our distance is going to be 0. So the first one that we compare, the distance is going to update. And it's going to say, okay, well, this distance is farther apart. And we will set Taco1 to be location A and Taco2 to be location B. So we're going to grab the locations that we're currently looking at in our for each loop here, and we're going to store those in Taco1 and Taco2, as well as the distance between the two, as long as the distance is greater than what we've previously set it as. So we'll go through the entire list, updating the distance each time that we come across two locations that are farther apart from each other. And then at the end of it, we will go ahead and write to the console Taco1's location, their latitude, longitude, and their name, as well as the second location and its name. And then we're also going to write the distance between the two locations. So that was essentially what I wanted to go over today, is giving you a breakdown of my Taco Parser project. And again, in this project, I used xUnit in order to create unit testing for a test-driven development environment. And then I created a TacoBell class to represent a location that was parsed from my CSV file. I have my Taco Parser class, which is parsing the data from the CSV file by passing in a string that would be obtained from it and using regex to capture the data that I need, and then returning a new TacoBell location, and then lastly creating a situation to assist in a real world problem. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I had a lot of fun working on this project, and I would love to hear any feedback you have.